Hello, I'm Avis Kalfsbeck, and this is the Peace is Here podcast. Welcome to Peacewarts, School of Peacecraft and Inquiry, where we practice the skills of peace through short daily classes. We take the peace work seriously, but not ourselves. If you're joining us mid-school year, you're not late. Orientation begins at episode 198. I'd be so grateful if you help me spread the peace messages by sharing this episode with a friend. Welcome back, Peace Scholars. We are in the Department of Living Roots in the garden. Underneath these planters, there's a network of fungi called mycelium. It connects the roots of different plants, allowing them to share nutrients and warn one another about pests. If a single plant is isolated from this network, it becomes weak and susceptible to disease. Jane Jacobs, the transformative urban theorist, wrote in 1961, "The public peace, the sidewalk and street peace of cities is not kept primarily by the police, necessary as police are. It is kept primarily by an intricate, almost unconscious network of voluntary controls and standards among the people themselves." The concept, the mycelial network. In the Department of Living Roots, we view human neighborhoods exactly the same way. Loneliness is not just a private sadness, it is a primary security risk. When social cohesion breaks down, the gaps are filled by extremist narratives that rely on fear and isolation. Today we are exploring why knowing the person who lives next door is the most effective defense system ever devised. The history, resistance, trust, and early warning. Our lesson today is about how social trust functions as a biological shield against radicalization and civil unrest. Propaganda requires an isolated target. Research into extremist recruitment, such as studies by the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, shows that social isolation is a stronger predictor of radicalization than the ideology itself. We see this shield in action during the Nazi occupation of Denmark. Civilian defense there was not just about high-profile sabotage, it was about the cohesion of the ordinary. When the order came to deport Danish Jews in 1943, the mycelial network of the neighborhood went into effect. Because neighbors knew one another's routines, they were able to hide over 7,000 people in plain sight, moving them through hospitals, churches, and fishing boats, all coordinated through informal whispers and shared labor. They maintained a social front that the Gestapo could not penetrate because there were no traitors among friends. This social cohesion made it nearly impossible for Nazi propaganda to create the neighbor against neighbor suspicion required for a successful occupation. Similarly, during the 2014 to 2016 Ebola outbreak in West Africa, we saw the logistical power of neighborly trust. Initially, international response teams arrived with armored vehicles and hazmat suits, which created a clash of narratives that sparked panic. However, the turning point in the crisis came from community-led initiatives. In villages where local trust networks were strong, neighborhood watch groups were formed. These weren't police, they were respected elders and youth who translated medical protocols into local traditions. Because these neighbors already trusted one another, they could verify the truth about the virus in real time, stopping the scarcity of truth that leads to chaos. They proved that a trusted neighbor with a thermometer is often more effective than a soldier with a rifle. The thesis, trust over surveillance. In the Department of Living Roots, we argue that nations often choose between two types of security, trust or surveillance. After World War II, many Scandinavian countries made a strategic choice to invest in social welfare and neighborhood-level cohesion rather than militarized policing. By ensuring citizens had a stake in their community's health through shared housing and community centers, they created high levels of social stability with very low levels of mass surveillance. Security is a byproduct of how we treat one another, not how well we watch one another. This is reflected in restorative justice circles, heavily influenced by Maori traditions in New Zealand. Conflict is resolved more effectively when the participants are embedded in long-term relationships. In these circles, the goal is the repair of the relationship and the community root. When people face the human impact of their actions within their own neighborhood, the cycle of escalation is broken before it can turn into systemic violence. High-trust neighborhoods act as a natural barrier to recruitment and conflict. It is much harder to radicalize or fight someone who is already a necessary, visible part of your local network. Your homework. 1. Look up the concept of restorative justice or the work of Jane Jacobs on Eyes on the Street. 2. Write down one question about any of this episode's topics. If you don't have a question, just write no question. 3. Optional. Journal for 5 minutes about your neighborhood. How many of your neighbors do you know by name? If there was a crisis tomorrow, who would you go to first? The work of the worm. The worm is never alone. It works in a world of billions, all moving through the same soil, all dependent on the work of others. It doesn't need a central command to tell it to be a good neighbor. It simply follows the law of connection. In this shared earth, every name learned and every hand held in common labor strengthens the root system of our collective defense, the quiet, steady pulse of a neighborhood that refuses to be afraid. Until our next class, keep your feet in the living roots. Class dismissed. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the Pieces Here podcast, the most helpful way is to follow it wherever you're listening. It helps share the message with others. You can also support this piecework at my Patreon for $4 a month, about what a used paperback goes for these days. Just go to Patreon at patreon.com/Avis Kalfsbeck. That's AVISKALFSBEEK. My most recent book is Manamu Tante, a best friend eco-fiction novella about food systems, featuring Tilly, Camas, Pedro, and the rest of the gang. It's book 6 in the Pedro the Water Dog Saves the Planet series and is available wherever you buy books. You can find all of my peace projects and stay in touch at aviskalfsbeck.com. Music is by Javier Peque Rodriguez. Sound effects are from Pixabay. Regarding peace, we need not delay or despair. We are not late. We are right on time to love. We are all scholars of peace. Listen for the peace.